50% of people are going to get cancer now. It's
1 in 2.
Extraordinary, 1 in 2.
If you drink 6 units of alcohol a week, Julia, your risk of reoccurrence can go up by as much as 28%.
Take whatever you want and then pay for it. You know, when I was told I had cancer, I said, I'm not going anywhere. I was a single parent. There was just no way I could leave my daughter, even though she was an adult. You had young children, which is significantly worse. And, you know, we both of us, it came and it's gone, and we don't live with a fear. It was just a blip. Just a blip.
It was a blip. We're thriving.
You know, that combination of fat and sugar, you know it's called the bliss point, don't you? The companies work out you can put 22 teas in before you're physically sick.
I did something called prehab. Nobody had told me about prehab. I researched prehab. You've heard of rehab?
I have.
Prehab is in anticipation of something coming your way and preparing your body for that.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Your Mind, Your Rules. And today we're going to cover the rules of health, the rules of physical health, the rules of mental health. And I have a guest here. I'm such a fangirl. Julia Bradbury doesn't need an introduction. She's a TV presenter. She's written 2 Sunday Times bestselling books. One went straight to #1, and it's this one, Hack Yourself Healthy, because we can hack ourselves healthy if we know how. Being healthy isn't boring. It's not restrictive. It's life-changing. So Julia, as you probably know, got breast cancer in 2021. I got cancer in 2015 and 2017. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about your journey. You thought you were healthy. You were naturally very slim, busy. And then you got this horrible news, not only that they told you it was quite a large tumour, it was stage 2, is that right?
It wasn't stage 2, but it was large, it was 6 centimetres. So I self-checked. I was away filming in Costa Rica, discovered a lump in my left breast and wasn't very concerned. I've always checked, I've always been on top of things like that. And I tell everybody, men and women, check yourself, check your poo, keep an eye on your own bodily functions. It's one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah.
Nobody else is in charge of our health, just us. And to go through that whole story, let's get there quickly because a lot of people have heard it as well. The diagnosis at the end was a 6 centimetre tumour. It took a year actually for this to be confirmed, and the prognosis was to have a mastectomy. It was early stage still, even though it took an extra year to be discovered. And then I started having conversations with the team that were looking after me about endocrine therapy, hormonal therapy, tamoxifen, or in my case it would have been aromatase inhibitors because I'm postmenopausal. And at that stage, somebody who'd been in my life for 20 odd years appeared, and I hadn't realised she'd been through something similar. And she is big in the functional medicine world and the naturopath world. And she said to me, Julia, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this test? Have you done a DNA test? Have you done a hormone test? I went, Heidi, I've never heard of, no. And she said, before you do anything, just start doing these investigations. You've got the brain for it. Go into that. And it opened up an entirely new world for me. So I put all of those conversations about my hormonal therapy on pause. And I should say, because a lot of people say, well, Julia didn't go on this and didn't go on that. What I have learned is it's a very personal journey. It's not just about the cancer. It's about the person. It's about the terrain. So what's right for me might not be right for you. It might not be right for you. But I was very pleased that I took the pause because actually I didn't end up going on hormonal therapy, and I'm 5 years clear this year.
I imagine that was all private. You weren't offered that on the National Health. You had to pay for it.
I did, and I caveat that because people go, it's all right for you because, you know, you're a presenter or you're a celebrity and you can pay for everything privately. Because I'm freelance, I've had a 30-year career in television and writing books and doing what I do. I've always had to have private medical insurance. For example, I've just come back from my latest series for ITV in Antarctica. You have to be covered.
Oh, so you're lucky you had medical insurance.
So I've had to pay for that throughout my entire career, because if I fall ill filming somewhere like Costa Rica or Antarctica, or you need to be able to get home and be covered. And so that has always been something that's been factored in to my budget, if you like.
My husband got dengue fever when we were in Costa Rica. He was so ill.
Yeah.
They said, oh, that's what happens here in Costa Rica. He got better. But yeah, you don't realise that in some countries that are not the UK or Europe or the States, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, and you really have to think, it's not, you're not being sort of catastrophic, thinking about it. You have to go, if something goes wrong, can I get home? Can I get the treatment I need?
Exactly.
So yes, I was covered by my insurance, and this was an insurance-led journey. However, everything subsequently, my functional medicine and everything that I've done after that, I've self-financed, and I feel very fortunate that I can. I have had to make sacrifices in my life in order to do that. But now, to me, health is the most important investment.
It's the most important. People say, organic stuff is expensive, and, a burger and fries is £15, but the salad is £20. But we have to see this is an investment in your health, in your longevity.
Very much so. And that's a topic I'm very passionate about, pesticides and herbicides. We're seeing a lot of news about a particular herbicide called glyphosate at the moment. It's the most widely used herbicide in the world. And it has recently been discovered that one of the papers that was suggesting that it didn't have any cancerous impact, let's call it that, let's not say anything else because it might be litigious. One of those papers that suggested that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma wasn't as a result of overexposure to glyphosate was actually created by the manufacturer, and was a false paper. And there's a subsequent paper that's come out showing, certainly in mice, and I think now in humans as well, that there are cancer risks associated with glyphosate, and that's on most foods.
Yeah. And we know that the epidemic of bowel cancer in young people is because of all the ultra-processed food. And when I had cancer, I was actually so well, I had no idea I even had it. It just showed up on a scan. And they called me in, and I was sure I'd go in, we've made a mistake. But they said, no, it isn't a mistake. And rather like you, for the first 2 days, I was like, wow, am I going to die? What's going to happen here? But my husband drove me to see my best friend up in Yorkshire. And I was reading, I don't know if you know Icon. Do you know Icon?
No.
But there's a charity called Cancer Active, a strange name, but they have a magazine called Icon. It's a great mag. And I was reading it, and I thought, wow, look at all these things I can do. I can take all the parabens out of my diet. Don't use deodorant, don't use toothpaste.
Perfume.
Perfume, all the stuff you've got in your way. So all the parabens I can get rid of. And then I can have organic soap powder and dishwasher, which is actually very important, what you wash your dishes in. So I can do that. I can reduce my exposure to EMFs, electromagnetic. I shouldn't be sleeping with a phone. Some people sleep with it under their pillow, which is extra. You should not do that. So everything should be 7 feet away from you. Isn't always easy. I was told I would never be able to have a baby. I had cancer twice and was told I'd have to live with that forever. I got run over and was told I couldn't walk for 6 months. I actually walked in 6 weeks. And each time I got that diagnosis, I thought, no, this is my mind, my rules. I bounced back from cancer. I had a perfect baby. I recovered from being run over super fast, and I used the techniques in this book. In fact, I wrote this book while I was in plaster, having been run over, because the things that made me bounce back will make you bounce back from relationship issues, wealth issues, childhood issues, confidence issues. If you want to live your life on your terms and have love, success, health, wealth, even the body of your dreams, it's all in here. Buy it and change your life forever. So I realized I could take all the parabens and the stuff I put on my body, in my body, and cleaned my house with. I realized I could minimize EMFs, and I realized I could take turmeric. Turmeric seems to be the number one thing to reduce inflammation, which is a precursor to cancer. I thought, well, look at all of that. And then I could look at what I ate. So I thought, gosh, and then I could start visualizing. So I thought, gosh, there's at least 5 things. And I went from absolute fear to, wow, I've got a lot of choice and power here. So I remember sitting in that car on that journey to Yorkshire, going from fear to, I can do all of these things. And immediately it made me feel better because I felt I was back in charge. I could have some form of control.
I think that's really important. There's a feeling of empowerment, isn't there?
When you realise that it's not just one thing, take the drugs, have the surgery. It isn't that. It's called complementary, not alternative medicine. You can do everyone with cancer should be reducing sugar and dairy too. I was great friends with Jane Plant, who was obsessed with, she had breast cancer 5 times. And when she stopped eating dairy, it didn't come back anymore because it's a growth hormone that makes your cells grow.
Also, it depends on the dairy and the quality of the dairy, the antibiotics that the cows have been fed. There are a lot of other external factors. I felt the same. I think my 2 big changes were nutritional. I did exactly what you did. So it was a complete turnaround on nutrition. And alcohol was a big one for me. So I think I felt that empowerment that you're feeling when Professor Gareth Evans, who appeared in my documentary Breast Cancer and Me, I did something called a polygenic risk score, which is a saliva test, and it can indicate your risk of reoccurrence. And my risk of reoccurrence stands at 13% next to the average woman who's been through a similar journey to me, which would be at 10%.
Okay.
So mine is slightly increased, and if you're looking at between 10 and 13, it's more significant than you would like to think. But for me, I'm going, that's great. 13 is, I'm well in the 80s. So I flip it and go, I think that's a low risk. But when we started talking about alcohol, he said, if you drink 6 units of alcohol a week, Julia, your risk of reoccurrence can go up by as much as 28%. Well, for me, that was an absolute no-brainer. I have enjoyed social drinking. I've danced on tables. I used to love clubbing when I was younger. I've done all of that. It's no biggie for me at all to go, there's a 28%.
Yeah.
It's not a straight down the line mathematical equation. It was very much, there's a big risk that I can completely, have control over by cutting out alcohol. Yeah. So I did that. The other interesting one is exercise in people who have, they've done trials.
Exercise minimises your chance of ever getting cancer in the first place. If you can do some form of exercise, you lower your chance of getting it and increase your chance of recovering from it.
And reduce your chance of reoccurrence by up to 30%.
Which is amazing, isn't it?
And again, it's not for everyone. There are prescribed different types of exercise. It could be resistance training. You need to be cardiovascular fit. Essentially, you want your blood to be moving and not sticky. So then I looked at those two things, a bit like you, and I went 28% on the alcohol, 30% on the exercise. Two absolute non-negotiables for me that make complete sense. Yeah. And I'm in control of those.
Well, it's like that expression, take whatever you want and then pay for it. When I was told I had cancer, I said, I'm not going anywhere. I was a single parent. There was just no way I could leave my daughter, even though she was an adult. You had young children, which is significantly worse. But I said, I'm not going anywhere. I will do anything it takes to survive. And I would have done anything at all. And I think that's important because a lot of people say, oh, well, I've got a year, I've got 5 years, and they start to read all the statistics, and they, not to criticize, they effectively give up. It's a curse, it's a death sentence, and they talk about it. Well, what's the point? And I've been given this awful sentence, but, the word responsibility means an ability to respond. If you're responsible, you are able to respond. And rather like you, I thought, what can I do? How can I survive? Let me look at people who've bounced back from this. Let me look at people who've had, look at Kylie Minogue, Sheryl Crow, Lance Armstrong, Bob Champion was told he could never have children with, and he had 3 after having testicular cancer. So I was deliberately looking for, because one of the rules of your mind is whatever you focus on, you get more of. Yeah. Whatever you look for, you go towards. So rather than looking at all this awful stuff, I was looking at the good statistics. Okay, what are statistics here? Rather like you, I had womb cancer, and my first thought was, well, that's a stroke of luck. I don't need a womb. My womb
you've had your children.
It gave me the most beautiful child. She's all grown up. I thought, I did what you did. I actually said goodbye to it. Yeah. I remember my doctor saying, now, when we take it out, this is the problem. Some of the cancer cells can spill out and go to your liver, and then that's terrible. It'll give you really awful news. And I thought, okay. So I imagined my womb wrapped in cling film. I imagined a fortress around it. Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation, thank you so much for giving me this great kid, but I got to stay here. This great kid, she needs a mother, even when she's going to be 35. I think she was 25 at the time. So I had a conversation, and I remember you telling me later,
I did the same with
your doctor told you to have this conversation.
It was my friend, the same friend that got me onto this path of exploring more. Yeah. And she'd actually had a double mastectomy, and she said to me, the best advice I have had is to say goodbye to your breasts and everything they've done for you. Breastfeeding, topless when you were 19 on the beach, or jumping around in an exercise class. Thank them. It was one, and be grateful for the time that you've had together. And it's a different phase now. Yeah. And I have called my mastectomy breast, I had immediate reconstruction, which I'm very fortunate to have had. And I call it mozzarella because I have very, very thin skin. And the surgeon said, we could do a graft. We could take skin from between your thighs and fat, and we could inject it around you, but you'll have to have a skin graft, and you'll have 6 weeks of extreme pain. And I went, No, that's fine. He said, well, you will see your implant. I said, I really don't mind. So you can actually, and I've put this on social media, you can actually see the ripples of where my implant is, but it's Motzi.
Yeah,
and we call that. I know. And my kids, we say, sometimes, if they bang into me, I'll go, oh, Motzi. And they go, oh, sorry, Motzi, give a little tap.
Yeah.
And it's Motzi's my new friend. Motzi's the new part of me. Interesting what you said about this death sentence hanging over you as well. In Hack Yourself Healthy, I spoke to a lot, and I continue to explore my emotional health. And one of the therapists that I spoke to said he really doesn't like it when he deals with a lot of breast cancer patients. He doesn't like it when people are given that number.
Well, they don't do it anymore. They don't now say 5 years or 2 years, because they know that what is expected, another rule, tends to be realised.
Yes.
What you expect, you become.
Yeah.
As you've got 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, you kind of are doing a mental countdown automatically.
And your body goes into some sort of shutdown, doesn't it? Preparing to go.
Yeah. When I was told I could never have children, I remember a voice in my head saying, don't let that in. I was sitting in a doctor's office, said, you'll never get pregnant. And if you got pregnant, you could never carry a baby to full term. And if you could do that, the baby would have everything wrong with it. And none of that was true. I got pregnant, had a perfect baby. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to let that in. When I had cancer, the strangest thing happened. I was in this doctor's office, waiting for her to say it was a mistake. And she said, no. And I said, will it come back? And she literally went, it has your address. It knows you live. Yes, it will probably come back. And I remember thinking, wow, what a weird thing to tell me. It will probably, and then she said, and when it does, that's the terror time.
Oh my
gosh. When you get it back again, you can't fix it, which is actually not true.
No.
But I've read that too. I've read if you have breast cancer and it comes back, that's a terrible thing, which is a terrible thing to hear. But I was so shocked. She literally knocked on the table and said, it has your address, it knows where you live, it will very likely come back.
And what a very powerful sentence and way to deliver it. And if it wasn't you that she'd deliver that to, anybody else would go,
And then you have why bother? Why bother doing all Julia's stuff? No sugar. Well, it's going to come back anyway. So it almost makes you give up because you're told it will come back. So you go, what's the point?
They're in the integrative world, which you've mentioned, which is not to say don't accept the standard of care treatment. But in the integrative world, a lot of testing goes on as you're moving through your journey as well. And now there's a very interesting scenario with a cancer that does return. There is a suggestion that you should have a biopsy on that cancer because it's a different cancer. It behaves differently, and potentially treating it the same way as you did the first cancer might not work because it's adapted, it's changed. It's, as you know, cancer is fiendishly clever and complex. And people say, sugar feeds cancer. Well, sugar does, all sorts of things do. There are other elements and minerals and all sorts of things. It depends on the person, the environment. So isn't that interesting that you could then go through the same treatment that you went through before and actually it's not going to work.
No.
Because you're treating the wrong cancer at a different time at the person whose body has changed since then as well. And I'm fascinated by this world, and I'm really sad when I see, and there are quite a lot of traditionally trained medical doctors who are very dismissive of integrative and complementary medicine. And I don't think there should be this big chasm. I think we should be trying to bring these two worlds together because there is a place for both of them. And this sort of rubbishing of the two is very unhelpful to us, the patients.
But what I found so interesting, because it's a journey, is that, first of all, when my doctors looked at me, he said, don't lose any more weight, before you come in. And I said, well, I'm not having any sugar. He said, you need sugar. It will build you up. And then, even older, the day before the surgery, they gave me this sachet. They said, you take that to feed your body during, well, what is it? And they wouldn't tell me. No, it was just white powder. It was just, and they wouldn't tell me what it was. I had to Google it. I just tipped it down the sink. It was just glucose.
Yeah.
They said, yes, it gives your body a meal while you're, my body doesn't need a meal. We can go for at least 40 hours without food.
And there's a lot of interesting work about fasting and chemotherapy as well now.
Yeah, and then that too, because I had a friend with cancer and I didn't have to have chemo, or I was only stage 1. For me, it was just a blip. It was nothing. I had it the next day. I was on stage a week later, just getting on with my life. I felt like I never really had it. Second time was slightly a little bit different, but not much. But my friend was in a much more advanced state. And I was telling you, if you're having chemo, if you fast, it makes the chemo work better. The cancer cells become weaker and the non-cancer. So she was fasting, went along to the chemo ward, and it had got flooded and they had to cancel everything. They said, come back tomorrow. And she said, I'm fasting. They went, don't worry. She went, we've got a lovely cake for you. And we've made you some tomatoes and put extra cream in it and a bit of sugar to build you up. And if you go to a Macmillan ward, if you go to a chemotherapy ward, they give you milkshakes, chocolate drinks, hot chocolate. I mean, there's no juices there, apart from obviously apple juice, but there's nothing healthy. And they say you can't have anything with a germ in it. God forbid that salad, but you could have a bar of chocolate because it's sterile. And I took the menu home. I was so shocked. I took the menu home with me and had a look at it and thought, wow, on a cancer ward, you get tomato soup, loads of drinks, because obviously your mouth and the ulcers, milkshakes, and this hideous stuff called Ensure. Mm. So I was really shocked, although they know this. And then I did a tweet saying oncologists don't eat sugar. And people said, my oncologist got a bowl of Quality Street on his table going, eat some, have a little treat. You need that. You're about to have chemotherapy. So have a nice Bounty bar. Here's a Mars bar. And it's so strange. It's like going to an oncologist who's smoking. Mm, mm. But when I put that out, people said that's just not true. So many oncologists encourage you to eat sugar.
I hear that every day, Marisa. I get messages from people every day asking me for help and advice. And I always say, look, I'm not an expert. I've been through...
You kind of are an expert. Well, you should label yourself an expert because you are. You've been there, done that. And I think you are an expert.
Because you've told me I am. Marisa says
You're an expert.
I am.
Yeah, I love what you've written.
I have a lived experience and I have been exposed to some really expert voices. And what I do is I point them in the right direction. And a lady this week did exactly what you just said. She sent me the menu. And I can't remember whether it's biscuits or donuts. Something was on there that was absolutely shocking. And when you talk to people like Dr. Robert Lustig, who is a true expert in sugar, that's his life's work, and the damage that sugar can do to us at a mitochondrial level, those are our most important cells. When you talk to fully qualified nutritionists who spent years studying nutrition, there's a man called Michael Ash in my book who I speak to, and he's helping me with my next book about food as well. And they explain what happens to you on a cellular level when you literally bang your body with
Could you tell us? Because food. I think that's the beauty of you. People think, oh, I've got cancer. Here's Julia. She's been through it and she's got some advice that could help me. So talk to our audience about sugar. Because we'll say your body needs sugar.
Well, your body does need sugar and your brain runs on sugar, but there's refined sugar and there's excess sugar. And we now, per head in the world, in the Western world, we eat more sugar than ever before. And this will give you an idea of where we're at with sugar and ultra-processed foods. We are now at the point in the world where there are more people suffering from obesity than are starving.
Isn't that interesting? And diabetes too.
So think about that population, people who have not enough food, where they're nutritionally devoid, where they don't have access to running water. We see these pictures, they're amazing charities. We all do our bit to help. But if you think that now there are more people who have overindulged, who are overweight, and I don't mean to put blame, because I would say that the ultra-processed and the sugar industry is to blame because they push this stuff like a drug.
I was in Whole Foods a few years ago. My husband had a cold. I was buying in some chicken soup. And I said, it's got sugar. They our customers like it. I said, I'm your customer. I don't like it. I mean, this is Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Your chicken soup, the third ingredient was sugar. I couldn't find anything in there. So
you made your own.
Yeah. I was very busy at the time and I just wanted to take something home for him. He's a great cook, as it happens. He cooks all the time. But, you'll buy a chicken. I was actually eating some scrambled eggs in a restaurant and what's the glaze of it? It's sugar. I said, I don't want sugar. I sent it back. But it's in everything.
It is in everything. And Robert Lustig will tell you it affects your gut. It affects your gut permeability. So what's allowed into your bloodstream, which your immune system has to work on filtering away. Sugar has a negative impact on that. Sugar has a really negative impact on your liver. There's something called non-alcoholic fatty liver
liver,
disease
yeah, I know.
through the roof, skyrocketing around the world. And Robert Lustig has some frightening stories when he was had a pediatric ward. Children whose sugar reading, your glucose level, when you go for a resting glucose level. I mean, mine's around 4 or 5. I work really hard to keep it there. Every time I eat food, whatever it is, I move to make sure that I've got nice balance with my sugar levels. So I'm at about 4 or 5.
So you never lie on the sofa eating a packet of Pringles?
But I used
ever.
to.
You used to.
But now I would get up. Even if I just get up, I have some moves that I do. And I do some squats and I do some, jumping up and down. I pump my arms, do that 4 times. Or I go for a walk with the dog.
Yeah.
Every time that I eat. And Robert has been dealing in his past. I'm at 4 or 5. He had children who had 120 on their glucose levels.
Yeah, because he tells you in a way that makes so much sense that sugar and alcohol have the same effect on your liver. And if you give your child Cocoa Pops and a glass of orange juice and maybe some toast, you might as well give them a glass of wine. We'd never give our children a glass of wine for breakfast. But it's the same for the liver.
Yeah.
Glass of wine, Cocoa Pops, toast and jam.
And starting your day off like that.
With sugar,
With sugar, you're in for a very negative
course,
ride.
yeah.
Because you start on a sugar spike and then it goes down and then you have your 11 o'clock cake or Dunkin' biscuits because you need to peak up again because you lose your energy. I would say advice, start your day with protein and fibre.
Savoury stuff. I do that. I always have savoury food.
Yeah, and throw those herbs on. Tim Spector will always talk about your 30 vegetables and seeds and herbs a week. And people go, 30? How do I do 30? Well, in the morning I have my plates of vegetables and some clean protein that might be from last night's meal, or maybe I've opened a can of pilchards or sardines or something and mashed it up with some avocado. I don't love those fish, by the way. Mackerel's my favourite, but very good for you. High omega-3s. So I'll mix those up.
And you put oil on your vegetables
I
all the
put
time.
olive oil. I put fennel seeds sometimes. I put cardamom in there. I have dill. And mix it up. Have those herbs on standby in your little drawer because that adds to everything. If you've got 5 herbs on there and plus the vegetables, you're up to 10, 15 before 10 o'clock in the morning.
Do you know when I lived in LA, I went for breakfast with somebody and she sent out for avocado on toast and coffee. When it arrived, the coffee was cold. And she went, I never cook. And a third of people in LA don't cook and never shop for food, ever. So they wouldn't even know what you were talking about because everything is delivered. Even a cup of coffee, she didn't make it. She had it delivered and it was cold. She goes, I don't make anything. So I like a really clean kitchen, so I never cook.
Extraordinary.
But it's not. It's really common. The amount of people who never cook. They warm things up.
Yes. Well,
They heat things
60% of the UK
they
lives off
microwave
ultra-processed food.
Yeah. And then in New York, they don't have a kitchen. They don't. I don't have space for a kitchen. They go to little bodegas that have it all pre-cooked and pre-chopped up. And it's actually not shocking. There's a load of people who never cook, don't even shop for food. They might warm stuff up or microwave it, occasionally grill something.
In plastic, probably.
In plastic, yeah. And then we wonder why we've got this epidemic of colon cancer because people don't eat real, live, natural food. It's like you can buy scrambled eggs in a carton. It's like, why would you buy... they take 2 minutes to make.
Yeah. And by cooking, by being in that environment, by preparing your own food, you're also telling your body and your mind, I'm ready for food. I'm getting ready for it. So your enzymes start to get ready to digest your food. Your mouth starts to water sometimes. You're really looking forward to something. You're preparing yourself. And then I always take a breath before I eat. And I look down at the plate. And it's not a religious thing. It's a, thank you. I'm looking forward to this. Again, it's I'm feeding my body health. I'm really going to enjoy this.
So when you meet people who don't cook, just like always get takeouts, how can you help them? Because to them, the idea of change feels like work. This is not change. This is, I got to buy it, bring it home. I've got to wash it. I've got to chop it. I've got to cook it. and I can usually just get it from Deliveroo. But it seems like such work. So how can we help people who really want to change but are put off?
Well, you're the queen of this, but it's a reframe, isn't it?
It is a reframe,
It's a reframe that actually we all live such busy lives. Isn't it a joy to cook?
Yeah.
So to choose your ingredients, to look at the colours at the supermarket, to pick your fresh vegetables, to take that time that is important time. We've very much become human doings.
Sure,
not human beings.
I mean, how I do it, as I tell people, listen, your body is the most priceless, mind-boggling you will ever own in your whole life. And you have to come at it from love. When you love your body, you think, I wouldn't put a donut in my body. I wouldn't have a Pop-Tart for breakfast, because that's abuse. It's abuse to wake up and think, let me have a donut. I mean, I've never really got donuts. To me, they're just fat and sugar. Doesn't mean I didn't like chocolate, but donuts, my brain.
They were not your thing.
You see, you eat something if the picture is right. You know, if someone spat on your food, you couldn't eat it. Yeah. If someone brought the food over and they were bleeding on it, you think, no, I can't eat it now. I was actually in Morocco with my husband. No, Egypt, and we ordered this food. And he came out, he said, don't eat it. He said, when you go to the toilet, they wash their hands in the bowl of salad. There's a bowl of salad and tomatoes in water, and that's where you wash your hands. He said, we're not eating anything. Because that picture was so awful to him.
Is that what you do, or you've done in the past when you're helping clients who have issues with food? It's picture.
Yeah, so if a vegetarian never has to fight to avoid bacon, because the picture is this is a creature with a face. A Hindu doesn't have to fight to avoid roast beef because they see that as wrong. So when you make the picture wrong, you can't eat it. Of course, food companies calling their food Sunny Delight and what's that, kind bars? I mean, the most unkind thing you can eat is a kind bar, but they give them names, Jolly Ranch, Sunny Delight, Happy Meals.
And everything's
fun size.
Organic or contains, and they have a picture of the one ingredient that it does contain, but in tiny amounts.
And of course, they'll say things like farm fresh, barn fresh, nature's own, harvest
Which
crunch.
means nothing.
Well, the more they're called that, the worse they are. But you see, they're making the picture. They make the picture right. They used to do this thing for chocolate about it. It contains 1.5 pints of milk. Like, that was a good thing. But we only eat something if the picture is right. If the picture is wrong, like, you know, you might say I could eat lamb, but I couldn't eat cat. I couldn't eat dog. I could eat beef, but I couldn't eat gorilla. So it's interesting that when the picture's wrong, you can't eat it. So what you must do is make the picture wrong and start to say, this is my enemy. This feeds cancer. My mind wants it, but my body hates it, because the truth is your body doesn't want any of that stuff. Just like your body doesn't want alcohol, but your brain really does. So you have to keep making the picture wrong. Like, what's something I could never eat? My brain, what's the food we think of as a baby? The beef.
The ragu, the pasta,
not the ragu,
the bolognese.
No, it's the little baby cows that are crated and you can't ever eat
the veal
them.
calf, veal.
Yeah. So I couldn't eat pigeon. I loathe pigeons. I could never eat pigeon. I could never eat veal. I couldn't eat, my husband used to love, what's that raw meat called again?
A tartare, steak tartare.
He's not allowed to have it anymore since he married me. But I mean, I couldn't eat that, raw beef with a raw egg on top. No, because the picture's wrong, to him it was delicious. He made the picture right. When you understand, you eat something if the picture is right, which is why there's that book called I Lick My Cheese, about someone they licked their cheese and no one else in the apartment would eat this cheese. Yeah, but someone else said, I lick it too. But if in China, people spit on their food when it arrives, so nobody shares it. Because when you spit in your bowl of noodles, the picture's very different.
Yeah.
So if you can make the picture wrong, you won't eat it. If you make the picture right, you will. So you've got to say yummy, beautiful, purple sprouting broccoli, which is so good for my body and my mitochondria love this, rather than, it's delicious chocolate. And
what about people who eat for emotions' sake? You know, there are people who will say to you, Marisa, I just can't stop. You're telling me this, but I love the chocolates. I love the cakes. I'm tired. I'm just about to, I haven't eaten anything all day, so I want my favourite biscuits. How do they stop?
Well, the stomach is the seat of all emotions. People say, my stomach was in knots. Or children say, my tummy hurts when they want something, because every feeling starts in the stomach. Fear, joy, love, panic, it all starts here. And emotional eaters learned at a very early age to push the feeling down. Don't cry. Here's a cookie. You're being good. Here's an ice cream. I'm busy for an hour, so here's some chocolate. Don't bother me. But also the brain will go back to what something means, because everything is a regression. And eating is an actual regression. No one says, I'm having the worst day in the world. I need some raw carrots because I need chocolate, macaroni, cheese, or pizza, because we have taste receptors here. And when your mother gave you that fatty, sweet, creamy stuff, it fixed all your problems instantly. You weren't lonely, you weren't sad, you weren't bored. And the brain always works out, what does this mean? What does milk mean? Because milk's the only food, breast milk is the only food in the world that's half fat and half sugar. If you went back 500 years, you could find fatty food like fish and nuts and sweet food like mangoes, but there was no combination. The only combination is breast milk. And now, of course,
and
cow's
ice cream.
milk. Yeah, but where does ice cream come from?
I'm saying, but they've carefully...
Yeah, but ice cream comes from another animal's breast milk. Yeah. Nature has got no ice cream. If you wander around, there's no ice cream waiting for you. There's mangoes and berries and bananas, and there's avocados, but they haven't blended them together to make a lovely smoothie and put 10 teaspoons of sugar in it as well. So the brain, when people have a bad day, the brain goes back to, you need that milky, creamy, fatty stuff. That combination of fat and sugar, it's called the bliss point, don't you? The companies work out you can put 22 teaspoons in before you're physically sick. So Costa Coffee, Starbucks, put 22 teaspoons of sugar in some of their drinks.
Which shouldn't be called coffees anymore.
I know, they must hate their customers to do that to them. I mean, 22 teaspoons. And occasionally I walk down Whole Foods and go, look at this cereal. The first ingredient is sugar. It's not even the fifth. And I always read ingredients because, of course, whatever it is, if it's the first ingredient sugar, or the second or the third, it means a third of it is sugar. But we are wired, unfortunately, to do two things: to remember what sorted out our needs as a baby. If my little daughter fell off the swing and I gave her an ice cream, she was happy. She was 45 and said, Mum, my husband's left. I wouldn't go, I'm going to send some ice cream over immediately, because it only works when your life is simple. But then we have a brain that remembers where sugar is and goes back for more. So when I was with a tribe, they have the honey finders, and they're very valued. The bees don't leave it out. They hide it or put it up a sheer cliff, and the honey finders will find honey. But if you're wandering around the Serengeti and you found honey, you'd eat as much as you can. You go back to you wake up and think, honey, and you go back for more till it was all gone. And if you found ripening mangoes, you wouldn't think, there's a lot of fructose there. You'd eat all of it. And because then you'd remember,
because you'd know that there isn't an abundance of this. It's here now. Well, sugar might not be tomorrow.
It never poisoned you. Sugar was a very safe form of calories, honey, mangoes, but it was very safe. And you packed on some weight for the lean time. So when you found sugar, which was rare, you might find honey twice a year. You should gorge, because you might not get it again for 6 months.
But now we're gorging all the time.
But now, of course, the brain still says that Kit Kat is so rare. Even if you sat next to the vending machine for 5 years or 20, it still says that Kit Kat is rare. You need to keep going back for more. So sugar, our brain is wired to go back for more, to remember where it is and to go back. No one says, that celery in the fridge is calling my name. I keep going back for another bite. They say that cake is calling my name. But when you understand it, you think, okay, how can I work with it? Well, first of all, don't have it in the house. If it really calls your name, I had to do that many years ago. I just had to stop. It's the kind of trick to go, I love Cadbury's chocolate chunk biscuits. I'll bring them home and just have one. It's like saying, I'll leave that champagne on the table and not touch it. So you have to either not have it or put it, maybe you have a husband or kids that like it. So put it out of sight in a high cupboard, in a container you can't see through. Because when you see food, your primitive brain doesn't need to eat that. So you're wired to remember where sugar is and go back. Well, you're wired to eat food. If you see it, you eat it. So if you just put it out of sight, it helps. But the biggest thing is talk to your brain. I'm not in a tribe. I've been sitting next to this Kit Kat machine for 15 years. In 15 years, it's never done a thing for me. It's not my friend. It's my enemy. It's going to kill off my mitochondria. It's going to feed cancer. But I'd like to ask you, about this new mitochondria and sugar. Could you tell our audience about mitochondria and sugar?
So I think we're going to hear a lot more about mitochondrial health. In fact, Liz Earle, the brilliant Liz Earle, has a new book coming out or is out now, and How to Age Well. And she talks a lot about mitochondria. I talk about mitochondria.
Because it's now the third brain, isn't it? Some people say it's the first brain.
Well, in a very simple way, and this really is a simplified explanation of it. Our mitochondria, we all have, mitochondria are organelles. They are our energy factory. So they are creating something called ATP, which is our energy, which gets us through life. But there is a byproduct to that system. It's a little engine that's working. And just like car engines that push out exhaust fumes, the mitochondria do that as well. And you want your mitochondria to be well balanced and working efficiently. And sugar, unfortunately, has a very negative impact on that mechanism. So if
what
your mitochondria, well, it means that you're, in a simple way, more exhaust fumes are being pushed into your body. It's not that your engines, all of these engines are not running as efficiently as they could. And so the side effect is more harmful to us. And our mitochondria, fortunately, I mean, I love aging. I'm grateful to be here. But the facts of life are collagen starts to deplete, estrogen starts to deplete, muscle starts to waste from the age of 30, sometimes for the age of 20
and
for
human
people.
growth hormone too.
And so we have to work hard to adapt and work against that. And it's the same with mitochondria. They just get old. They get, they're being used and used again. So what you want to do is to support your mitochondria with really good whole foods. Red light is very good. Morning light is exceptional. Exercises is very good.
So sugar depresses. We know sugar depresses the immune system.
Our immune system, our cells, our mitochondria, our gut health, and our brains. Think about your child when they come back from the party.
Yeah.
How hyper are they? You're trying to tell them, look, it's time to go to bed, or will you sit down? Or they can't listen to instruction. The brain is literally
overloaded with the sugar.
Overloaded with the sugar.
It also can make people feel very depressed. Sometimes I feel depressed if I eat sugar. Because that's another thing.
There's a dip.
But isn't it interesting? In hospital, people bring you in cakes and chocolate croissants. My friend had cancer. Her neighbours would leave cakes on her doorstep, bake them, and she couldn't say no. A vegetable casserole would be great. They were making these cakes out of love, but giving to someone who was very sick.
Dr. Boon Lin in Hack Self Healthy is a cardiologist, and his story, he went through his own health, chronic health moment, and he talks about it in the book. And then we had a side conversation about hospital food. So he's a number one cardiac consultant and surgeon. He's at the top of his game. He walks, he does exercise, he meditates, he works really hard in his stressful environment he's created habits to try and combat some of the bad stuff that happens to him on a daily basis, the assault on his brain and on his body. And he is shocked and horrified about hospital food. He said, how am I meant to tell my patients who are suffering from heart failure or really need to lose some weight in order to improve their heart health? How can I tell them to eat properly when the lady in the hospital with the trolley is coming past and it's got a yogurt, a full sugar flavored yogurt that you pull the top off, orange juice and maybe brown toast, sliced brown toast, but probably white. I mean, depending on which ward you're in. The health service can't deliver health when everything that's happening within the health service, or a lot of the systems that are there, aren't selling that message. I mean, you would not align yourself. Let's say somebody, a big product comes along and says, Marisa, we want you to be our global ambassador.
Like margarine.
Yeah, you're amazing. We see you on the stage. Yeah. We want you to talk about how this fuels you and helps you. You couldn't do it.
No.
And not only that, what would your audience think?
But it's not just the NHS. My husband was in Cedars-Sinai. They thought he had a heart attack. He actually hadn't.
Oh, yes, it's the private
sector. And the room
sector.
was $1,000 a night. And the next day they brought him in breakfast. And it was Kellogg's cornflakes.
Yep.
And something called breakfast syrup. And I said, what is it? It's a little thing. It's breakfast syrup. But what is it? This is breakfast syrup. Put it on the cornflakes, it's syrup. I said, do you mean it's sugar? Well, we call it breakfast syrup. And I said, this is abuse. I mean, look what you've given my husband, cornflakes, long life milk, And I said, I want something healthy. They said, we've got a breakfast muffin. Well, what's that? It was a chocolate chip muffin. They couldn't even make him an omelette. They said, we don't have it. Everything is long life.
And everything's been
all
bought
given
in.
to them. I think Kellogg's give that to them because I can't imagine. They said, everything is long life. And I thought, this is disgusting. I mean, I took him in. Imagine if you're in Cedars-Sinai alone, without friends or family.
And without a Marisa on your team.
And they think, they brought me breakfast syrup and this is Cedars-Sinai, £1,000 a night for the room, let alone the surgery. In fact, his bill when he was there was $350,000 for 3 nights.
Gosh,
and
for the surgery and for everything.
I didn't have surgery, just had a little investigation, a stent, no surgery, $350,000. And I said, you can take every food item off that bill because this is abuse. It's so uncaring for your patients. It's actually disgusting. I posted it everywhere, so I'm going to shine a light on this because you can't even give them some scrambled eggs. I mean, or some healthy organic oatmeal, maybe with some coconut milk. They didn't even know what that was. Weirdly enough, they wouldn't let him have a cup of tea because it had caffeine in it because they thought it had a heart. So no tea, but you can have
lots of sugar.
Yeah.
I have an anecdotal story and I'm going to be very careful about this person's identity, but this is somebody who I knew personally. And they went through extensive chemotherapy. Mm-hmm. And exactly as you had said earlier, put on weight, maintain weight. And they were given this liquid drink, which was full of sugar and other things that are very bad for gut health. And I said to them, I'd really love it. They came to me and asked for some advice. And again, caveat, this is what I've learnt. I said, I'd love it if we could move you off this and maybe put you onto an avocado smoothie. They were unable, please use that, they were unable to have solid food at the time. Mm-hmm. And they were frightened and didn't do that. And they continued on this drink. And very, very sadly, after extensive chemo, they passed away. And they had a well-known other condition. Mm. And this drink is known to be contra to that condition.
Isn't that amazing?
And that was what they were given, knowing the medical history. And it does still shock me. And I'm not here to bash the NHS.
No, I know.
Because it's an incredible service. And we are very lucky in this country that we have something like the NHS. But what I would say to people is now there are so many other modalities out there that can be integrated, that can be worked alongside, that we can find out about. It's, as you said, that responsibility. And I know that people are sometimes emotionally unable. Sometimes a cancer diagnosis is so crushing for people that they want to be told what to do. And they want to just listen to...
But people don't know. You know, when I had cancer, my husband, he's very kind, and he would go and get himself a coffee, and then he would come back and he'd bring me 2 green juices every single day. I mean, he could have made them, but it was a little juice bar. And about a week, the guy said, I know your wife, I've been putting maple syrup in there for her to build her up because someone said she's got cancer. So he was buying these green juices and the guy's putting and sweating in maple. I thought, God, they're very sweet. And they said, no, that's the, come on, they said it was something.
The kiwis or some, yeah.
Yeah, but all the time he was squirting in loads of maple syrup, not even organic, because he thought it would build me up and I'd be so grateful. And I was like, God, I was trying to, I was deliberately having no sugar because I didn't want to feed any cancer cells.
This is always a very sobering statistic. We do need some glucose to run. We can run on ketones and other things as well.
If you didn't eat any sugar ever, where would you get it from?
Because we produce it.
Because we know the amount of sugar you need is zero.
Well,
none.
The amount of sugar that's coursing around our blood is a teaspoonful.
But where does it? If we never ate sugar, where would we get it from?
We would be producing it from our food.
Of course.
We'd be producing it from the intake of our nutrients, depending on whether they're refined.
Even if you were just eating raw meat, you'd still make it.
You'd still make it, and there'd be certain vegetables. They still have an element of carbohydrates which turn to glucose.
But that's why bodybuilders don't. All they have is meat. They're like 100% keto because they don't want to have any fat in their body or in their muscles. So they have none.
But the difference between somebody with type 2 diabetes and between another person in terms of the amount of sugar that's running around their blood is only 1 other teaspoon.
Isn't that amazing? So just 1 teaspoon more.
1 teaspoon more gets you to the stage of being a type 2 diabetic, and you might just be on the cusp of starting to lose limbs at that stage. That's how little extra sugar in our lives, external sugar, we need to consume for it to become life-threatening. I mean, type 2 diabetes is life-limiting. On average, it can reduce your lifespan by 10 to 15 years, I believe. Do a fact check. But it also opens the gate to all sorts of other diseases. And that, I think, isn't spoken about enough because people laugh off sugar as something that isn't that dangerous and it isn't toxic and it isn't impacting our liver and our mitochondria and our life. And it was one of the hardest things for me because I've got a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
So I had to go, it's like, right, I'm going to stop snacking. So no eating in between meals.
Keep your insulin levels down.
And just, to reduce that access to sugar. Because for me, the snacking was always invariably something sweet. It was the 11 o'clock, let's dunk a biscuit. It was between lunch and dinner, let's have a little...
And you would even eat really cheap, awful kid sweets,
my
wouldn't you?
favourite was to sit on the sofa at night.
Yes.
Watching some crappy television, like I knew back to back, whatever, with a tub of sweet popcorn, and I would pour a bag of Maltesers into it.
Wow.
And I might even have a side of ice cream.
Wow. Amazing.
So, amazingly bad. I mean, now I look at that. I mean, the popcorn arguably has a bit of fibre in it, but it was the sweet variety.
Yeah, the sweet one.
And it would be late at night.
So you're just going to bed with a stomach that's full of sugar.
Full of sugar. And your body's still digesting.
Your body's not going to use it.
So it interrupts your sleep, means that your sleep patterns will be
It also interrupts
dysregulated.
your cell repair because your cell repair starts about 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But the same enzymes that digest food repair your cells. If your stomach's full of food, it's set aside, which is fine once. But every night, it means your body is never actually repairing itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the big, when people ask me about how do you give up sugar, I say the two things, and it will be hard at first, is to give up snacking and do not eat before you go to bed. 2 to 4 hours, ideally, before you go to bed. Stop
What do you
eating.
think about having having no refined sugar? Is that okay?
That's my
that's
lifestyle.
A kind of way to say, I can't imagine a life. What would I do at birthdays, Christmases, Easters? We're obsessed with sugar, traveling, picnics. But I find it, if you know refined sugar is actually an easier thing to do.
Yeah, because you're just saying no entirely.
Yeah.
And what I do is I take my new best friend dark chocolate with me. And if I know it's a birthday or a celebration or we're out for friends for dinner and I know they're going to have pudding, I will have some dark chocolate in my handbag and some nuts.
Yeah.
And that will be my pudding. So while they're there, I will have that pudding. If you're in a really nice restaurant, you might say, would you mind melting this dark chocolate over my nuts for me, please? And they will.
Yeah.
And you make it, you're still a part of that social environment, but you do have to plan. And you asked me earlier about how do you introduce this into your life. It's about turning things into joy. It's about enjoying food preparation, enjoying buying good food, really embracing that, embracing the colours and the different foods and trying new things. And
making it familiar. Because when you say it's so hard to cook, say it's unfamiliar, because anything becomes familiar, but hard stuff stays hard.
And prepare.
Yeah,
Sundays,
yeah.
do batch cooking.
And get stuff delivered. You know, I used to do batch cooking every Sunday. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Here's something, though, that I'm sure people say, okay, no sugar. I'm just sweetening everything now with Equal or Splendor. And I'm making my own stuff. And I'm having a coffee with 4 teaspoons of Splendor instead of having a dessert. And they think that's good, but they don't understand that artificial sweeteners are also very carcinogenic.
I think the research is beginning to point in the direction when it comes to artificial sweeteners that they're not great for our gut microbiome.
No, not at all.
So the good bacteria and the bad bacteria doesn't really know what to do with these artificial sweeteners that have been created that over...
And people think they're healthy.
Over millions of years, our body is not used to ingesting.
And they're made from petrochemicals too.
Which is also, I'm very anti-petro on my skin and in my body.
But you can get monk fruit, monk
I have
fruit. That, which is it's totally healthy. You get a good one, an organic one. Don't have too much of it, because even if you put in 5 teaspoons in your tea, you're training your taste buds to want sugar. Just have half a spoon. You can wean yourself off sugar.
Or actually don't. I mean, I used to do the sweet tea and sweet coffee thing, and now I don't at all. I've completely trained my palate not to.
But I meant if you really want something sweet,
if you do want that sweet treat,
put that in.
There are so many things out there. As you said, monk fruit, cinnamon is great. Ayurvedic medicine relies, and the Ayurvedic world relies very much on cinnamon.
And cinnamon
I give that to my
reduces your
kids.
blood sugar too.
It does. And there's another, this is a fantastic discovery that I've made in the last year, chicory syrup. So chicory syrup is very low GI, so glycemic index. It's very low. It's less than 5% sugar. It is a syrup, but it's sweet without being overly sweet. What can I say? Versus a maple syrup where you really get that hit. You can really taste the sweetness. It's more like a vanilla
Yeah, because people
sweetness.
think honey is good for you. They go, oh, honey's from bees. I've heard that's really healthy.
Well, honey from the supermarket isn't from bees.
I know, of course, I know that.
Either.
No, but people think it's healthy.
I would argue that an amazing wild honey would be good for you
if you could just have half
amounts.
a teaspoon.
Yeah.
But if you have 5 or 6, you're spreading it on toast and loads of it, then
no.
anything in excess is not.
But again, important to say to people, this is not about never enjoying food again.
Of course.
It's not about not having the joy. It's finding alternatives.
Yeah.
Cinnamon, vanilla, chicory syrup,
and putting
nut
good
butters.
stuff in. Actually, it's more important to put good stuff in than to take bad stuff out.
Yeah.
So don't worry about taking everything out. Focus on what are you putting in apart from the sugar.
And you'll also then find yourself becoming fuller more easily.
And also your taste buds change in 31 days. When you take sugar out of your tea or coffee, you think, oh, it's horrible. When I gave up milk, I used to have tea with milk and honey. I can hardly believe it. I loved it. I wouldn't look at it now. And when I stopped, I really missed it. And now I like tea with almond milk. I like black tea. I like herb tea. If you gave me a cup of tea with milk, cow's milk and honey, I could never drink it.
I couldn't either.
But at the time, I loved it. Because your taste buds change in just 31 days. So you just have to think, okay, this is not hard, it is unfamiliar. But if I keep going, I mean, I loved sugar too. I loved chocolate. I loved junk food. When I was a student, I remember a boyfriend came around with a chicken to cook, and I didn't, my oven had never been connected. Because all my friends, they lived on Cadbury's Smash and
all the packet food.
Packet food. We didn't know. We had no idea. How awful that was.
And chocolate now, there's this wonderful new phenomenon called lab-grown chocolate, which a lot of the big companies are investing heavily in. So lab-grown, and also chocolate that's not chocolate anymore.
Yeah,
it's got
palm oil.
less than 30%, less than 25% cocoa in there. It is sweetened and emulsified, and as you said, palm oil is added to it. So beware the chocolate bar masquerading as a chocolate bar, because it isn't.
And sometimes it helps to say, is it my body that wants this, or is it my mind? Because your body actually can't even digest that stuff, but your mind really wants it.
I've had my DNA tested. I've had my brain DNA pathways tested, and psychologically, this is one of my pathways. I'm always looking for new projects. I'm very driven. I've always got lots of plates spinning, and one of the side effects of that as well is that sometimes I just don't feel full. I can eat a lot. People always say to me, where'd you put it all, Julia? Even, when I was eating lots and lots of sugar, it's like, why didn't you put any weight on? What's happening with you? And now I've replaced that sugar. I eat a big breakfast. I have a big plate of fibre and the protein, and then I have soaked nuts and coconut, and I put my blueberries in there. And people look at my breakfast in the morning and go, I could never do that. I could eat half of that. First of all, I can. It also fills me up for the day. I'm genuinely
so you're
properly
not snacking,
full. I'm not snacking.
And you're eating some good fats.
Yeah, good fats. My olive oil somewhere in there as well. When it comes to the night time, so my evening meal now, which is at 5 or 6 o'clock, I do want a little bit of dark chocolate. Well, I could keep going with that dark chocolate bar. So I have my string, I have my allowance, and then I could just keep going because I'm not.
But you put it out of sight.
I put it down and I say to myself, why do you want more? And the answer is you don't actually want more, and you can have this again tomorrow.
Yeah. Which is a very clever way, because your psychology talks to your biology every single hour. Every day your psychology talks to your biology. When you say, why do you want more? You don't really want more. You can have it tomorrow. You've given your biology a great thing. More is for tomorrow. Less is more. I think I need this, but I really don't. So how did you have to dialogue with yourself? Again, that psychology, biology. What did you have to tell yourself? What rules did you have to create and indeed quickly give up in order to come through cancer?
I don't think about reoccurrence. Obviously, thoughts pop into your head.
You don't have what, they think scanxiety. I've got scanxiety.
Not
I
at
hate
all.
that word.
Not at all. I remember saying in an interview once, I refuse to live under a fear
of course.
of reoccurrence. Everybody talks about it and there's a conversation. Do you worry about it might come back? And I'm like, no, I'm doing everything in my power to take
I'm a bit like that
to take the best care of my body now. I'm doing really positive things. I'm feeding my body health.
So you're giving yourself the highest
regularly.
odds that you and cancer are done.
Yeah. And I'm putting myself there. And I don't want to have that fear. I don't want my cellular body to feel that
fear.
Because
fear creates cortisol. Cortisol creates inflammation, which is a precursor to cancer. So I often say, is this going to create cortisol? Is this really worth it? I don't want cortisol in my body. So I often think about whether to say yes or no, depending on how much cortisol it might create.
The other thing that I did, which would potentially be contra for other people, is I don't like to spend lots of time on forums. I get a lot of people who write to me asking for help and advice and to put them in the right direction, and I do that.
And now you can just give them your book, which is so great.
Thank you. But I found forums a bit depressing and quite sad-inducing is the word I use. And it wasn't a place that I felt I could be, and I wouldn't be helpful to people, and I wasn't able to help because I was in that state. So for me, those types of things, where I know for some people they can be very supportive because you're going through the same thing or a similar thing and you can swap stories. I found a lot of the time I wasn't going through the same thing because I'd put it behind me and I was moving forward, and I didn't want to dwell. You said something brilliant to me when we had a cup of tea one day. You said, darling, I've heard you talk about my breast cancer diagnosis and you must stop talking about it as my breast cancer diagnosis because it's gone.
But also because my is an ownership word. If I said, hey, what do you think of my book? Look at my book. We're proud of it. We own it.
Yeah.
This is my home, meet my kids. What do you think of my boots or my shoes? So when you prefix it with my, it is an ownership word. And the brain doesn't get rid of something you own. I found that when I worked with a client who'd been divorced for 25 years. My ex, he's ruined my life. I said, darling, he's not yours.
I love that.
For 25 years, he's moved on. He doesn't talk about it. You call him my ex-husband. You're prefixing it with my. That means you own it.
Annex.
Yeah. But the my was the big thing. Yeah. Because you can say the ex-husband and there's no emotion. If my husband said, here's the wife, I go, well, I don't really like the wife. What is that? Or here's the PA.
Yeah.
Here's the, when you say it's detached from you. So if you want to own something with pride, call it my beautiful heart, my great skill at being a coder. But if you don't want it, call it the. So I never said my cancer. My mother would say, I've got one of my migraines. My migraines come back. I've got my tension headaches, my irritable bowel. And I learned then because she always called it my with a kind of pride. We don't always use the pride, but it's very important. Never call something my if you want to be free of it. If you don't want to own it, call it the.
I call it now, and in interviews you'll see yourself quoted a lot. I went through a cancer diagnosis and then this is my journey or this was my experience or this is how
my is fine, but never, it's not your cancer.
Yeah.
If someone said, hey, I'm going to take that tumour, and go, can I take it home with me? Because it's my tumour. People would think that was crazy. You're going, hey, doctor, when you take it out, put it in a little jar.
Can I have it, please?
I want to take it home because it's mine. You go, I don't want it. It's gone. Like, when I had womb cancer, and it was very much I had it, and then I didn't. I went in, they took it away, and I didn't have it anymore. And actually, I called it can, because cancer, I called it can. And I can get over this. This is a blip, and I always called it can, but not cancer. Because and people come to me and go, hey, I'm a cancer survivor. I said, no, I'm not one. I'm not in that group. I don't want to even be in the cancer survivors group because I felt it visited me and it left again. And I understand it, but I didn't want to be someone who's going to a cancer survivors group every week because I want to leave it behind and talking about it.
Yeah, you're a thriver, not a survivor.
Yeah, I like that.
What advice would you give? You could actually, I'm going to use Auntie Melissa, help me here. So when I talk about alcohol and I talk about how I don't drink anymore, I mean, I think I had a glass of wine last year. I call myself teetotal, and I just say my choice. This is my personal. These are my personal statistics. I get lots of pushback on social media from people saying, "Oh, Julia Bradbury shamed me. I really enjoy my glass of wine at the end of the day.
Yes.
I really, it's my treat, and I don't want, I've lost so much since this diagnosis. I don't want to have to say goodbye to that, and I don't, I feel ashamed almost." I always try and respond and say, first of all, I'm not saying I would never tell anybody what to do. I'm just saying this is my situation.
Yeah.
I frame it as I've got children. Here are my statistics. Here's my choice, and here's why. It's a carcinogen. It's a toxin. It doesn't help you sleep. It's a sedative. It's not helping your blood. All the reasons that we know that alcohol is not good for you. How can I help people in that situation? What can I say?
I think you can say, I did drink for 30 years, and 30 years I looked at what it gave me. And then I realised I didn't need it anymore. It's like saying, I got this Jo Malone candle, but I need 30 more. And I need 40 more. Because if the first candle made you happy, or the first cushion, or the first bag, or the first pair, why do you need more? So everything you want in life is because of how it makes you feel.
So it makes them feel good, and it's their last treat, and they're holding on to it. But some of these people are going through a serious illness, and it will make it worse.
So first of all, it's not a treat. If your body could go, hey, I want loads and loads of wine, the body doesn't even like it. So first of all, it's not a treat. And secondly, whatever you think it makes you can get the feeling without the thing, you've won. So I might say, I need coffee to wake up in the morning. I need designer clothes to feel I matter. I need to have, I need alcohol to relax. I needed to be happy. It's actually a depressant. A lot of people who drink a lot start crying. I had a neighbor like that. She'd drink and cry and drink and cry. And I was aware what a depressant it was. So you're lying to yourself. But you could just say, I had it for 30 years. It was great. And now I don't, because I've chosen to prioritize living. I want to live a life. When you're 99, you can have a few glasses of wine.
Yeah.
If you want to.
But for those people who feel the shame and feel almost affronted that you've suggested this, you've put this information in front of them.
But you're saying it about you, not them, that it's free will.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, look, no MFs, no parabens, no sugar, and some supplements like turmeric. But you can pick one of those four. Or you might say, I'm not giving up my shower gel. I love perfume. I heard that perfume was a new cigarette, so I don't have that. But I might spray it in my hair occasionally. I might put it on my clothes, but I don't put it on my body.
Your thyroid, on your neck, and on your pulse points.
No. I mean, if you want to, put it in a cotton wool ball and tuck it in your jean pocket, or even in your bra. That's fine.
It makes me feel sick now.
Yeah. But, it's a choice. You might say, I couldn't live without perfume, but you've still got to just go and find perfume without parabens in it. So it's what works for you. I couldn't live without sugar. Well, there's lots of really nice candy bars that have no refined sugar. You can get alcohol-free alcohol. It's probably very highly processed. But you have to look at what works for you. And what works for you might not work for me. What works for me might not work for you. And we're not preaching. We're just saying, hey, look, here's all this advice. Take what works for you. You might find red light therapy, or the, what are those chambers called?
Hyperbarics, yes.
You might love it. You might love running. But, we're not
having
preaching here. Yeah. You see, I thought I was doing so great with cold showers. I live in Dubai. Then I thought, actually, I'm not. Because I came here and thought, I love them in Dubai because it's so hot. But you must do what works for you. Like some people, I love cold water swimming now. I really like getting in cold water and swimming. But I wouldn't tell anyone else to do it. They might say, I like swimming in water. My husband likes the water to be like bath temperature. I hate if you swim in Dubai in August, it's like swimming in a bath. Yeah. He loves that. I hate it. I don't know, I want it to be cold. We're not preaching to you. We're just giving you some advice.
Do you think we're all too comfortable these days. We live in these hermetically sealed rooms and we have air conditioning.
And we talked about instant gratification. We're all looking for instant gratification. So I'm feeling something. Let me eat that, drink that, Netflix it, shop it. When I had cancer, people would write to me and go, I thought you were healthy. I thought you were this mental health, but how could you get cancer? Somebody wrote me and said, oh, I hear you had womb cancer. You must be very aggressive. Only aggressive people get womb cancer. And by the way, they hate their mothers. Just thought I'd tell you that.
So thank you. Thanks for that
you.
lovely tip.
I'm aggressive and I hate my mother. But, it was really weird that I felt this sense of shame. People say, oh, I thought she was that health person that, had all the brain stuff sorted out. And it was really weird that I felt very odd about that for a while.
But you've done what I've done. You've educated yourself along the way.
And others.
And when you know, you know. So you know about parabens now. You know about environmental toxins. There was a very interesting study on women who do housework, and it's most women around the world who still do the housework and the unpaid. Yeah. And these women didn't smoke, but they had lung cancer.
Because of all the cleaning. But I knew 2 cleaners who both died because they were cleaning houses for 10 hours a day and inhaling all
the bleaches and the scents.
And then we've
parabens.
seen that in the nail salons too, the girls who work there and inhaling all those chemicals.
Well, hairdressing salons, nail salons, cleaning products, those are really big environmental toxin exposures for people. I don't paint my nails anymore.
No, I don't either.
Don't do that. No, I'm not on my toes. Yeah. And I'm very, very careful. I dye my hair and it's organic and it is paraben-free, ammonia-free, PBD-free and water-based.
And if you go into Sephora, they've got a machine that will tell you which products are organic and free of parabens and sulfates. So that's not actually hard. I think L'Occitane do the same thing. So it's a choice. I'm not going to give up my products. I'm not going to give up eating, but let me find better stuff. And the nice thing is it starts off being what you do, but it does become who you are. And also you have 3 children. You're not going to leave them behind. So if your statistic is I will be a mother if I don't drink, then it's a no-brainer because drinking might take you away from your children. And when you're a parent with cancer, you have an obligation to make them feel safe, to say it's okay. I said, darling, this is just stage 1. It's really nothing at all. Look at these statistics. But I wasn't going to start eating McDonald's and drinking Coke and anything in front of it. Which I think, Mummy, you shouldn't be doing that. Because it makes your kids feel better and your partner if they can see, oh, look at my wife, mother, friend. She's taking some action. She is responsible for her health. And if you're not, that's kind of a worry for them because they see you just being very cavalier about it.
But the converse to that, the flip, is that your children or your partner think you're completely crazy and obsessed and you've gone the other way. And it's like, when can we go for a pizza? When can we do the burger? When can we do this? So I've had to master that balance.
Yeah.
And my girls had a birthday recently. I've got twin girls and a son. And they wanted to do different things. And we went to a theme park on one day and we went to an interactive show on an interactive experience on another day. And they both wanted burgers on those days. And I had burgers 2 days running. Yeah. I haven't eaten a burger for 3 or 4 years. One of them was a vegetarian one. I didn't have the bun. I just had, whatever else it came with. And then the next day, there was another burger. They had milkshake, they had fries. I had it in a lettuce leaf and it was grass-fed. And I was like, you know what? These are my children. It's their birthday. It's one weekend. I'm going to do it.
But also studies say that if you do 80% of the time, it's as good as 100%. Yes. And also they're being fanatical actually is contraindicated. So if you say, I'm doing this 80% of the time and I've had 2 burgers in 2 days, so on the 3rd day I'm going to be super healthy and my body can deal with it. So it's good not to be fanatical. And I think you're doing the right thing because you're having joy and fun and you don't want to be going, oh, you shouldn't eat that and you shouldn't do that. But you're doing it for you.
When people say you're obsessed, I say I'm devoted.
Well, I say I'm obsessed with living. What's wrong with that? I'm obsessed with living. Good apparently the worst time to die is in the next 10 years. Apparently if you can live by the next 10 years, you might be able to live forever.
That's right.
I'm not going to miss out on that.
No, incredible stuff happening.
So I'm obsessed with getting through the next 10 years It's really important. I remember when I had cancer, somebody who I thought was a friend, she called me, she said, my neighbour had that. They were dead in 3 months. It's very aggressive. And I thought, wow.
What 2 types of cancer did you have,
I had
Marisa?
womb cancer
and
colon cancer.
Right.
2 years apart. But this was in 2017 and 2015. So now actually 11 years and 9 years. So I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And I always said it's a blip. Me and cancer are done. It's statistically, I feel great. I'm like you. I don't think about it too much. I think about ways to keep my cortisol levels down. I'm not fanatically. I mean, I might have some chocolate occasionally. I would never drink Diet Coke or eat Pringles. I just think they're just full of chemicals. I'm quite
Well, they're not a crisp, by the way. If anybody thinks they're a completely manufactured, mushed together product in that shape.
No potato
Nothing,
in them.
No.
So, but it's a choice, isn't it? We're all different. I know people who say, well, I've been through that. I deserve to live my life how I want to live. And it's all fate. I could get run over by a bus and they just do what they've always done. But for me, I wanted to feel I was doing the very best I could to live my best life. It's about living your life on your terms. They might not be someone else's terms. And apparently 50% of people are going to get cancer now. It's
1 in 2.
Extraordinary, 1 in 2. So I was told I had Lynch syndrome, which is why I got cancer twice. It means your body doesn't know you've got it and it can't fight it. And then they say statistically, got a 50% chance. I go, well, that's the same as everyone else.
Yes.
So I didn't feel that bad. I thought, wow, it's like saying I've got the BRCA gene. I'm 50% likely to get cancer. But now so is everyone else because of pollutants and environment and stress.
Which is why managing ourselves and taking responsibility for our own health, as we say, is the most important thing we can do. Having agency over our health.
Yeah, don't give that. They never say, hey, doctor, here's my illness. Can you fix it? Here's my illness. Well, how can I participate in recovering?
How many people go to a doctor, and the NHS isn't set up like this either in the UK, go to a physician or go to a doctor and say, will you check me out? And I want to stay as healthy as possible. And will you help me to maintain my health? When do people do that?
Yeah, well, almost never.
Mostly when they're ill.
And
when they say
you're taking drugs that have side effects. You're in a, I hate going to the doctors. I don't even want to go. I won't go to the bathroom in a hospital. They have all the germs in there, all the sick people. It's not their fault. But I want to avoid going to a place of illness. So when I had cancer, I would always say my body is a wellness-making machine, because here's another thing. If you can visualize wellness, studies show on PET scans, if you visualize all your cancer cells being attacked by non-cancer cells, it actually happens. And we know that because if I think of something sad, won't my eyes fill up with tears? If I think of something sexual, I might get aroused. I'm sitting at home reading and I say, oh. If I think of food, if I see a picture of it, my stomach rumbles. And if I think of something upsetting, I might blush. And if I think of something annoying, I might get really angry. I'm currently watching the news and what's going on. I can get angry. So I'm thinking a thought, my body's making it real. We know that happens just by the teary eyes when you watch a cat video on something. And then we have the placebo proof that what you think of a drug affects you more than what's in it. So if I'm thinking my body is fighting cancer, my body is doing wellness, my good cells are surrounding the cancer cell. If I think of that, I know it happens because there was a study in the Rainbow Children's Hospital in Cleveland where they had these little kids watch a puppet show so long ago because they had a policeman puppet that was hitting the other one with a truncheon. They never do that now. But anyway, this was a germ and this was a policeman. He was beating up the germ and all the kids watched it. That was very funny, like Punch and Judy. And they closed and said, just imagine this is happening in your body. Imagine you got the good cop going, beating up all the germs. And they took swabs of their cheeks. Within 5 minutes, their immunoglobulin levels had gone up so high. They were literally fighting an infection because they saw it. And so it's something we're not taught enough, that if you have cancer or diabetes or any kind of illness, if you can imagine your own body doing wellness, and then you go to places like Lourdes and say, I now felt the healing power. But it's the placebo going on in you.
Something I do every morning, and I've done this for the last 4 or 5 years. I do breath work, I get the morning light, I sit on a windowsill, I look at nature, I listen to the birds, I do some chanting, which I learnt in India. because and the chanting is for everybody else, it's for other people, it's to put something
But can I ask you why?
out there.
What is the science behind the light and the bird song? I know it, but I want you to tell the audience.
I will explain it. But let me finish the bit because it ends with you, which is lovely.
Okay.
So I do all of those things, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. And at the end of that breath work and morning light and bird song, which I'll explain the scientifically backed benefits in a moment, at the end of that, I have an affirmation, a positive life affirmation for me.
Okay.
And the beginning of the affirmation is, I am kind and loved. And then it goes, I am kind and loving. And then I continue with other positive things. My mind is alert, it's retentive, I'm feeding my body health. And then the Marisa line comes in, which is, I deserve phenomenal health.
Good.
And I deserve phenomenal wealth.
Yeah, and
I am deserving of, and I deserve. And that is those are my final two words, which are, yes, I'm here, I'm underneath my trees, I should be here. I deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And I am doing everything I can for my health. And the wealth is abundance wealth. It's not money. It's
being rich.
Yeah, rich in life.
Yeah, and wealthy because you have love.
The science of the morning light is very compelling. And if people watch the Andrew Huberman podcast, he talks a lot about this, but so do lots of biohackers and health and wellness experts. But when you get morning light into your eyes, first of all, trying to do it at the same time every morning, what you're trying to do is live by your circadian rhythms. So we've evolved to be in sync with the circadian rhythm of Earth.
Yeah,
so we want to
sleep when it's dark and wake when it's light. Yeah.
When you get that morning light into your retina, signals travel to a part of your brain called the SCN, the suprachiasmatic nuclei or nucleus. And that then delivers a series of signals to your whole body to release or hold back hormones for the day. So melatonin starts to reduce because you've been using, melatonin has been rising at night, and cortisol starts to rise because cortisol in the morning, that cortisol awakening response, CAR, and you can do a test to have a look and see how your cortisol works throughout the day, which is fascinating. The cortisol awakening response that's good cortisol. It's getting us ready for the day. It's preparing us to move. It's preparing us to hunt. It's preparing us to head off to a different place, perhaps, or as our ancestors would have done. It's preparing us to look after our children and our partners. So that's the good thing. You want that spike in the morning, and the morning light helps that. It helps to deliver that awakening response. So that's the science behind it, as well as handling a lot of your other hormones and serotonin. So that's why that is important. 5 to 10 minutes, longer if you can.
What do you do in the middle of winter when it's dark
I have
and
a light
rainy?
box.
So you still, wherever you are in the world, you're going to get your morning light.
I'm going to get my morning light. It's not as great, but it's
still there.
It's still there. And you can get portable light boxes.
You can. And the opposite of that is if you sleep in the pitch black, every system in your body, including your metabolic system, resets itself. So people, well, I use an eye mask. I can't bother to shut and open my curtains. I've got so many windows in my bedroom, but and the wraparound eye mask.
Yes,
but of course,
completely.
They can't press against your eye because then you can't get the REM. So you want them onto the little indentations for your eyes. But, an eye mask or blackout blinds or shutting your curtains. But you're correct. It's pitch black at night and daylight as soon as you wake up. It does wonders. It's this Mother Nature doing her work for you. It doesn't cost you anything.
And honestly, I feel so much better after that 10, 15 minutes. It's literally like having a coffee.
Isn't that amazing?
It's
and yet nobody
boost.
knows.
It's a complete boost. Then the positive affirmations, why I'm doing that. You can tell everybody why I'm doing that.
Because your psychology is having a conversation with your biology.
I'm programming myself.
So people who say, I always get sick, I get every headache, I get every allergy in the summer, every cold in the winter, if I eat that, you're actually, this is a statement. Your mind's job is to make your thoughts real, and your job is to think better thoughts. I'd never go, that would make me sick, that would make me fat. I go, well, no, I can eat that and burn it all off. On the whole, I don't eat stuff that's really bad for me. If I might, I wouldn't go, I'm going to get sick now. Or, I've just been with my little grandson sneezing and now I'm going to get ill. I stayed up too late, now the next day is going to be a write-off, because...
No, it's not.
One of the rules of your mind is what you expect is almost always real. Because I knew it. I knew I'd get sick. I knew that was the mistake. I knew I'd get dumped. I knew that wouldn't work. But then we still go into it. So you have to have better expectations. I expect my body to recover fast. I expect my body to bounce back. I expect a little cold to be gone in 3 days. And I expect all the good stuff I'm doing to keep me free of cancer forever.
When I was a little girl, I was bullied at school. And I remember being at home in Sheffield, and I was obsessed with television. I loved Tiswas. I loved Chris Tarrant, and that whole team. And I knew somewhere that I wanted to do something in television. And I remember I was actually on the loo when I was a little girl. I must have been about 12. And I imagined myself being interviewed for a magazine article.
Isn't that amazing? And it happened.
And it happened.
Yeah.
1,000 times.
Yeah, when I wrote my first book, I think, oh God, I've never written before. Is this any good? And I go, no, I can see it in the window of W.H. Smith's, and I can see people at the airport reading it, and I focused on that. And my mind made that happen because, you think a thought and you actually make it real. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. In fact, the mind doesn't know the difference between a good thought and something you're imagining them. Are you imagining it or is it real? Which is why if you imagine your body healing itself, the body doesn't know it's an imagination. It thinks it's real, so we say, oh, that's just a placebo. But what you're saying is your body is making itself better all by itself because you think you're taking a drug. And
the throwaway of it's just placebo. Placebo, as you said, is incredible.
It's amazing. The body will heal itself with a thought. And so rather like you visualize yourself being on TV, I visualize writing books. And, first I think I'm going to write a book. Then I think, no, I'm going to write a book that helps people. Then I thought I'm going to write a best-selling book that helps. And now my mind is very clear. There's no confusion. And now my mind's going to help me have the energy to write that book for 8 hours and really apply myself because I've told it, this is what I require. But if you go, oh, I'm going to write a book, what if it's awful, nobody buys it, awful reviews, your mind will say, don't do it. Don't sit at your desk. It's very important to tidy up every sock. There's socks need putting together, cushions need, forks that need to be lined up because you've told it it's going to be awful. Because your brain wants to move you away from pain all the time. But you get to choose what pain is. And so with cancer, with diabetes, with any illness at all, you've often said you believe cancer saved your life. So because you'd have gone on eating the popcorn with a whole bag of Maltesers probably for years.
And pushing myself, pushing
and not
that cortisol.
Sleeping, yeah. So sometimes we get away and think, I needed this wake-up call. This is probably a very good thing. Because it's never what happens, it's how you feel about it. And I think I love the fact that you used the cancer that visited you to write a book, to say to other people, look, you have all these options.
And many of them are free.
Yeah, there's so many. Breath work is free.
Daylight is free. Movement is free.
Sleeping in the dark is free. When I went to the health optimization, I speak at a lot of biohacking summits. You think, oh my God, there's so much stuff. I mean, when I spoke at this biohacking summit in Texas, it was so much stuff. It's like, where do you start? Start with the stuff that's free. Breathing, sleeping, do the 4 things our grandparents did. Go to bed before midnight and sleep in the dark. Drink water. Move your body. And put some green stuff in your body. I mean, this is not hard work. If you can do those 4 things.
Talk to people. Connect with people.
And also talk to yourself. The 5th thing is, how do you dialogue with you? Do you go, oh, cancer's come upon me, and that's it now? I've got the alcoholic gene, so it's not my fault. I've got the fat gene. I've got the depression. Do you think, I don't want the depressed gene. I'm not having that. I'm going to say no to that. I'm going to fight back. There are many people who've had all kinds of issues. Again, Bob Champion was thought he'd never have children. Gary Lineker's son had leukemia when he was a tiny baby. There are a lot of people who've had all kinds, but they've bounced back.
You can override your DNA and you can override your genetic.
Yeah, I love Bruce Lipton for that. Bruce Lipton, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Epigenetics.
I was told, I've had all of those, the DNA tests. And one of my consultants said to me, it's incredible. She said, you've got all these SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, all of these things that indicate that it could tip in the wrong direction for you. And it's testament to what you're doing that none of this has happened.
Yeah.
Because you're working on that with your nature. You're working on that because you've given up alcohol. You're working on that because you're reducing your cortisol. You're working on that because you do the gratitude and the chanting. And you can have agency over these things. It is not a fait accompli.
You must have agency. You know, it's never what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And some people who've faced adversity and written books have given other people hope. Oh, look at that. You know, look at Kylie Minogue had breast cancer, Sheryl Crow, and they're still here. It gives people hope. I think you're a great role model for women and men because they go, well, look at Julia, turned her life around, is actively participating in her wellness, not her illness. But you're also saying you can do it too. You don't have to do what I do, but you can do some of what I do. And that's the thing, that when you feel you have no power and no choice, you do. You have a choice to talk yourself out of being negative and into being positive, and a choice to think, well, what could I... It's like if someone said you've had a heart attack, okay, I can't eat bacon and sausages and fry-ups anymore, and I need to go for a walk. We accept that with heart attacks, but with cancer, I think it's changing now. We're understanding diet, exercise, what you put in, what you take out, what you put on your skin, what you ingest, what you inhale.
And what you consume visually as well. You were talking about the news.
Yeah.
And at the moment, the news is incredibly negative.
Yeah.
And it can really get us down. I don't listen to the news in the morning anymore. I learn stuff throughout the day. I have people who I can talk to about, what's happened? What's he done? What's she done? Where are we at? But I don't, I find it upsetting, and I don't want that. I don't have that emotional bank for that.
If I'm reading the paper on my iPad, because that's going to upset me, I just scroll on. I think, what is the point? You know, we have to take responsibility for how we feel. And it's no one else's job. It's your job to go, that will upset me. That isn't good for me. You know, if I'm going to stay up until 3 a.m. drinking, that's not good for me. I'm going to say no to that. You know, I had a silly thing, but someone called me and said, hey, I want to take you out for dinner. I've got a place in this amazing, best restaurant in California. We've got a table at 10:30. I'm like, no. So that means we're going to be eating at 11:30. She said, but it's so hard to get. I said, well, that's why we've got a table at 10:30. I said, I really am so grateful you tried, but on a weekday,
there's no way I can
never
do that.
go out for dinner at 10:30.
No.
I'm probably there at 1 a.m, and it's so bad for me. So you have to learn to say, it's like, it doesn't work for me. It's like someone coming up with loads of cakes, going, well, you know, I was working on a TV show recently in the East End, and they had pink donuts. And I said, could you get me some hard-boiled eggs? Or even
an avocado.
An avocado, some tuna fish. I just can't, I would not eat one of those things.
I made sure in a campaign last year that I was involved in, a cancer campaign, that the option for a coffee morning, I made it very clear that you don't have to bring cakes, cook cakes, do cakes, that there are other ways.
Things,
There are other things. There are lower sugar options. There are keto options.
There
and
there's fruit.
And there's gluten-free.
And
there's fruit and nuts. And that was my, when they asked me to participate, I said, I will absolutely, I'll support this incredible charity because you're helping people through cancer diagnosis. Of course I will. But it's very important to me that we make it clear that this sort of cake morning idea.
I know, isn't it? It's all about cakes and chocolate and more cakes.
And you know what? Pulling people together, the community aspect, helping others, being there together, all of that is incredibly positive. And that's wonderful. But it doesn't have to be about the cakes.
No,
It can be about
it's like if you check
food,
into
healthy
hotels, they always have free cookies, and often they'll leave you free cakes or chocolate. They never leave you like nuts and seeds.
I went out with a hotelier many years ago, and he explained to me why they always put the red lollipops on the counter. He said people love the red lollipops. There's barely anyone that doesn't like the red lollipops. So it's the red sweets and the red lollipops because they love them in a glass jar.
Oh, wow. But why do they love them?
Because they look
red.
like sweet cherries. It's it's that sweetest. It's that that's the most attractive sweet. It's the berries. It's back to our primal.
Our primal red.
That's going to be really
because of course in nature a red apple, a red onion is better than a green one. Anything red is better than green.
And one of my big things when I was the sugar addict was wine gums. I loved the red ones. They were my favourite. I could literally get rid of all the. I didn't like the yellow ones.
Red and black jelly babies.
Yes.
What self-talk sustained you through cancer? What did you have to tell yourself or say to yourself to get through it?
I think it's important to have your motivation, to find your motivation. So for me, actually, it was very easy because my self-talk was, I'm not leaving my children.
Mine was exactly the same.
I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to see them when they are adults. I'm going to be here for that. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that that happens. Yeah. And I spoke about this actually on another podcast. I did something called prehab. Nobody had told me about prehab. I researched prehab. You've heard of rehab.
I have.
Rehab, but not alcoholic rehab. Rehab, rehabilitation after an injury. So let's get you strong again. Let's work, if it's your knee, let's work on the muscle surrounding the knee. Let's get you back to where you were. Prehab is in anticipation of something coming your way and preparing your body for that. So with a mastectomy, they cut you open. They're cutting through your pectoral muscles. They jolt you upright. They cut off your breast. They lift up the tissue. It's gruesome. It's a big operation. So I wanted to be ready for that operation. So I worked on my upper body strength. I made sure my pecs were as strong as they could be. My arms were as strong as they could be. My respiratory health was as strong as it could be, because I was going under an anaesthetic. That's bad for your heart. It's bad for your brain. It's bad for your body. I was ready for that operation because I wanted to be able to be up and out of that bed and walking up and down the hospital stairs as quickly as possible.
And not just for you, but for your children.
And
they
not just
their
for
mother
me,
back.
but for my children.
Because they were quite young,
They
weren't
were. I think my girls were 6.
Yeah, very
so
young.
My son was 9. They were little tots. They don't remember it, which I'm very happy about. And there was another interesting thing. I've never not. When I'm traveling, I could be away for work. I've never not spoken to my children every day and video called them, seen them every day. When I went into hospital, I prepared them for the fact that they wouldn't maybe see me for 5 days. And I said that to them. I said, I love you. I'm going to have something. I'm going away. I'll be back in 5 days. Daddy will talk to you, but you're not going to see Mummy for 5 days. And I did that because I did not want them to see me ill.
Of course, because then you were trying to prop them up while you're trying to recover.
And I didn't also want that in their minds. I didn't want them to be thinking about that moment, because you look terrible after an operation. I was cut open, I had a bandage, I had a drip. You've got the drains, you've got the compression socks on. It's like immediately after giving birth, you might have the glow, but soon after that, you're looking pretty dreadful. And I think that was very important for me, but very important for them. They don't have that image of me.
Of you, Mummy, being
I came back, and for them, I was the same. I was a little bit softer, as I needed to be more gentle.
It's interesting you said that, because I worked with a girl years ago who got very sick, and she told me that her mother had breast cancer when she was 10, and she fought it for 8 years. And then she died. And she said, illness comes to get you. There's nothing you can do about it, because that's what she saw. This was some time ago. And the mother probably didn't do anything except the drugs and the surgery. And she got very burnt, the mother, with the radiation. So she saw the mother, this is probably looking really ill, vomiting after chemo, burnt after radio. And then she got on, she said, illness comes for you. There's nothing you can do, because that's what she saw. So she formed a belief, which went on to, she made a belief which went on to make her. Then we have confirmation, whilst we're looking for proof of what we believe. But your beliefs are yours to change.
Did you survive?
The mother died. She survived.
She survived.
Because she realised that all these illnesses, she had Lyme's disease, all kinds of weird things, but she realised they were all because of watching her mother get ill. And
so she felt it was coming her way anyway.
She couldn't fight back. The mother wanted to live so much, but she didn't. Here's you and I saying I was not going anywhere. For some people, they can't say that, or it's not. We're not saying for every mother in the world, just say what I said. But we knew it would work for us. I knew when I said I'm not leaving my daughter, there was no way I was going to leave. I would have done anything, whatever it took. I was going to live. And I do have a friend who was very sick, and I said, you can say to the doctor, I'll try anything, any drug. I don't care what it is. I want to live at any cost. And he has, because they gave him an experimental drug.
And it worked.
And he's still here. But it's that at any cost. I would have been bald in a wheelchair.
Yes.
I would have been obese if I had been. I wouldn't have cared. They could have cut anything off me.
I remember saying that to my partner.
I was going to live for my daughter and for myself. I had a wonderful life. I didn't want it to go away. I was on stage a week later. I bounced back.
I said to my partner, I will do anything and everything.
Yeah. But I have another friend who said, I'm not prepared to do anything. So I'm not prepared to have chemo. I'm not prepared to I'm not prepared to lose my hair. So I'm not prepared. I'd rather go, actually, than go through that. And so I know someone who's not prepared to stop smoking. Why should I stop smoking? I'd rather die early. In fact, Nigella Lawson's husband said that. He said, I'm not going to give up anything.
Gosh.
So that can happen.
That's a mindset I don't understand.
No.
But but again, back to agency and
I've
choice.
driven past Chancro and seen people outside with one leg smoking. You must in their wheelchair. So some people are actually not prepared, probably because they believe it's such hard work and no guarantee. But of course, it isn't work. It's not work to eat better and to sit in the morning and get light on your eyes and hear. But in fact, it becomes a joy.
You find so much joy in new, unexpected things.
Yeah. And of course, also the brain, like neurobics, means newness. So if you pick up your drink with the other hand, or your phone, or clean your teeth with the other hand, it keeps your brain very active. So newness is actually very good. But I think people who don't fight, have that belief, it's so hard, it's all joyless.
And what's the point?
What's the point? It's not going to work. But if you think, but actually we don't think that, and we're all allowed to think whatever we think. I can't make you think what I think. I can only tell you what I think, and I'll accept what you think. But it is interesting that, I was listening to David Bowie's song when he died and the stuff he talked about, and he sort of fought it and then accepted it. And sometimes, I've worked with people on their way to a hospice who have got to that state of acceptance. I don't want to fight it anymore. I don't want another 10 years of this. I don't want my kids to see me going through another 5 years. I want to go now. I can't have my children watching this. And I understand that.
And how could you possibly argue with those words, I want to go now?
Yeah, I understand them completely. I'd love to ask you another question about this word, scanxiety.
Scanxiety is when you are heading for that screening, whichever it might be. So it could be a mammogram, it could be an MRI, it might be an ultrasound. And you feel this apprehension, this fear that something's going to be discovered and you're going to get ill and you're going to die.
Yeah.
That would be potentially the thought pattern. I have the opposite of scanxiety. I want to test everything.
That's nice.
I've had full body MRIs. I've had a brain scan, discovered that I have a cyst, benign, next to my pineal gland. Really interesting because I struggle with my sleep. I work hard on my sleep, but I have a cyst against my pineal gland. That will be impacting my sleep. I know it's impacting my sleep, so I've come to peace with it, and I do everything. I have the cool room, I have the eye mask, I try to go to bed at the right time.
The lavender oil on the pillow.
So I'm fighting hard to work on that, and I am still. And it's the sleep is creeping over me. I'm not falling to sleep, which I know is one of your
Have you thought of
big things.
visualising that cyst shrinking?
I have thought about that, and actually I wanted to talk to you about
I do this thing called commanding your body. You see, the body likes military-type language. If you say, here's the thing, I'm trying to fall asleep. First of all, the brain hates the word trying because it's a misdirection. Yeah. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to try and pick up this can and drink it. I might say I'm going to try and read your book, which I'm not going to read it, I'll try. So trying implies failure. Falling is one of the few fears we're born with. If you pick up a newborn baby, it does that.
And we often have that
startle reflex. And then I'm trying to fall pregnant is that you might as well say to your brain bananas, blueberries and oranges because trying implies failure. Falling is a fear, and pregnant does not ever mean you'll have a baby. You can have 8 pregnancies and no child. But if you say, I'm conceiving a perfect, healthy child tonight, growing it, raising it. So you got a little cyst. You can imagine it going from a grape to a raisin, just shriveling up and becoming smaller and turning
I've got
to
the
dust.
scan, so I can do that. I can look at it.
And then what you do, you say, I command that cyst to shrink. And imagine heating it up with a heat lamp, so all the liquid, or imagine sucking out the liquid. Because when you're thinking it, the body's actually doing it. Studies show that if you visualize your embryo attaching, your chance of success goes up by 50% just by thinking of it. So now you've got a little, let's imagine it's like a little grape. I don't know what size is it?
It's a size, it's like a lozenge shape. It's
like a little tiny, a small grape.
Tiny.
So you say, I instruct, direct, instruct, command that little grape to shrivel up to the tiniest pinhead raisin. So you see it, the picture, and you say, I direct, I instruct, I command, I compel that, that little thing to shrivel up. It's becoming 1/10 of its size, 1/20 of it. It's turning to dust. You've got to use very specific language. It must make a picture. The brain only responds to it. If you say it's a bit meh, or it's going away, that's not a picture. But it's shriveling up. It's losing all its moisture. It's become tiny. It's become dust.
So I direct, I command.
Direct, instruct, command, code, compel. You don't have to say all of it.
Yeah.
Direct, instruct, command, code, compel. It's actually in the book, and I'm going to give you a copy. You're directing your body to shrink it. And if you think about it, people say, oh, I knew I'd get that cold. Because when you think, it's like an erection. What is that? You think a thought, your body goes, oh, I've just made that real.
Yeah.
So we know that thoughts are things, but you can get rid of that. You don't want to have surgery, but you can direct it to shrivel away. I got run over 3 years ago, and I was told you're going to have a limp. Your left leg will be shorter than your right. You'll never wear heels again, and you won't walk for 6 months. And every day I said to my left leg, I command you, use that right leg as a model and heal super fast. And I had a very good doctor who said, it's not the bones, the ligaments must knit together. So I'd imagine they're literally knitting, fiercely knitting. I walked in 6 weeks. My legs are the same size. I wear heels. I've never had a limp. But I directed every day. So I direct, instruct, and code my left leg to use my right as a mirror and to be exactly the same. So I'd imagine the bones growing back. And I knew that you have little flakes like snow that would land, and you'd grow bone cells, osteoblast cells.
Yes.
I knew what it looked like.
So you could really visualize
but I only did it, and before that I had a time when I thought there was something wrong with my tooth. My dentist said, you must have a high pain. He said, you've got a whole ulcer, you've got bone loss. They took the tooth out. It cost about $2,000. And he said, oh, actually you got bone loss. Now you need a bone graft. That's probably another $4,000. I thought, I'm not going to have a bone graft. So I went home. And I said, I command that bone to grow back. And I know that bone is like honeycomb. It's not solid. And every day for just a couple of minutes, I'd say, I command the bone here to grow back. And it's going to hug that implant like a tight pillow next to it. I went back in. He said, it's amazing. It's all grown back. 8 weeks. And I only did it for 2 or 3 minutes a day. It wasn't like, this is work. It was just when I'm wandering around, putting
it's like Joe Dispenza with his back, isn't it?
Of course.
He fixed his back.
You can fix anything because the mind knows how to heal. I mean, if I cut my arm, it will heal. But you can make that go away, but you've got to really see it shriveling.
Yeah.
You can imagine squeezing it like a pimple, or lasering it, or heating it up, or anything you like.
Turning to dust.
Or just imagine a little grape that you leave in the hot sun becomes a tiny raisin. Then if you take it between your hands, it just becomes nothing at all. So it's turning to dust. And then your body's just sucking it out.
See, I love that.
Don't wish. Say, I direct, instruct, code, I command, I compel. The brain loves this commanding. If you think of saying to your kids, oh, would you mind sitting down and reading? So sit down, get a book, be quiet. The commanding language makes us pay attention. So I commanded my body to bounce back from cancer, and you did too, in a different way. But you can get rid of that.
Okay.
And then never say, I'm trying to fall asleep, or I'm trying to go to sleep. Because first of all, nobody wants to fall. And where are you going? You put all the lights off. Very confused. I'm going somewhere. So I thought you just got into bed. So you say, sleep is coming to me. And it's staying with me. Sleep is descending upon me like a mist. It's covering me like a blanket.
Creeping up onto me.
Sleep is coming. The Norwegian for going to bed is sleep is descending upon me. So much better. So you say sleep is, when you're on a train trying to work, you can think, oh my gosh, I can feel. The other day I was reading my phone and I could feel this sleep. I had to put it away and I fell asleep on the sofa.
Lovely.
Because I could feel it coming upon me. So you say sleep is coming to me. You can say, I insist, I demand, I code sleep to come to me and stay with me for 8 hours, and it will. And that little thing is just shriveling up, and it can't interfere with your sleep. because you won't let it.
You see, had I not had my full body MRI and my
You
brain
wouldn't
scan,
know.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be
Yeah,
talking about it. And I
exactly.
wouldn't feel as empowered as I do to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I am one of those people that I want to know if something's going on. So there's no anxiety because I will deal with whatever
for you,
it
it's
is.
a great thing. It's giving you information.
Yeah.
You get information, you deal with the information you get. No information.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of scanning when you can, MRIs, magnetic resonance imaging. It's not harmful. There's no radiation. Do that when you can. See how your body is. I've had my heart checked, my cardiac, all in great working order. I take my bloods very regularly.
You see, your scans have given you reassurance.
Yeah.
That's
and it's
thing.
positive. I do bloods, and there are some things on my bloods that I'm not happy with. I'm working on them. I have an amazing functional medicine doctor.
Good.
We know that there's not massive problems. We can see there's something going on there. What do we do? How do we address it? What lifestyle changes, if any, can I do?
Because knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
And
I
information
genuinely
is power.
believe that.
Me too.
Yeah. So yes, anxiety is not something that I feel. And it's always when I am doing these tests and I'm showing them on social media and I'm writing about them, I always say, also, I'm here to do this for you. I'm doing things for other people to show this is available, this is available, this is available. It's a buffet. Take your choice.
Yeah, take what works for you.
What does work for you? If you are genuinely anxious, then don't do that. But if you're dealing with some issues, if you've got massive mental health problems, or let's say you're very overweight and you're struggling and you can't move, you can't get out of the chair, if you're really feeling depressed and down, then why would you not want to find out what is going on and what can I do about it?
Yeah, you know, one of my clients told me that he was morbidly obese and he took his 2 little girls to a party and they said, Daddy, when you come to pick us up, don't get out of the car. Nobody must see how fat you are. And of course they didn't come out. So he walked down the path, rang the bell. They went, we're going to get bullied now. Everyone knows how fat you are. So I sat in the car and I just cried, but I couldn't get a handle on it. But when he realized what it was doing, what it was costing him, he sort of had an epiphany. And he realized that when he was a premature baby whose mother would cry when he didn't feed and would get very anxious. And when he did feed, she was very happy. So his brain picked up a belief, oh, I'll die if I don't feed. And of course, he would die from being obese. And he's lost all that weight. He now goes running with the kids and swimming and is normal.
Life-changing. Because
he made a decision. A decision is a Latin, it means to cut off from. And there are people, I've seen some videos of people who were in a wheelchair, couldn't move, and then thought, I've done this to myself. I'm just eating myself. I don't want to do this. I'm going to change it. I also know people who haven't. And, I know someone who I worked with who was 800 pounds. I really loved him. He was so great. He died because actually did lose 400 pounds, but it's still 400 pounds left.
400 pounds to lose.
But he'd been abused as a child. And he always thought this thought, I need to be big. If I was big, that person wouldn't have hurt me. If I was big, I could have fought back. And you see how the brain, that wasn't a fleeting thought. It was a fixed thought. I need to be big to be safe. Because he was molested by a neighbour. And then, of course, that thought became an expectation.
And isn't it interesting, somebody else in that position might have gone, I need to be big, so I'm going to go to the gym.
I'm going to do martial arts.
And I'm going to be super strong and no one's ever going to do that to me again.
Yeah, because if you look at the karate people, they're not big, but they are strong.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting how we think our thoughts and we make them real, but we can change our thoughts. How did you manage fear?
I say to myself almost every day, I'm not frightened. I believe I'm a capable human being.
But going in for the surgery, that kind of fear, or just getting the diagnosis?
Oh, I was frightened. And actually, I would say that I accepted that fear. This was all before my mastectomy. I accepted the fear as a natural emotion for a situation that I didn't fully understand. I had no idea what was going to happen on the other side of this operation. I didn't know how I would feel losing a breast. I didn't know if I would look the same again. It was the unknown. And the mind doesn't really like the unknown.
Oh, no, it likes the familiar, not the unfamiliar.
And because I didn't know, and because there's nobody could tell me, I mean, my breast surgeon could show me as many photographs of women who'd been through a similar thing as he wanted, but it didn't mean that that was going to be me. Was my nipple going to be saved? Was the tumour going to be removed with the right margin? None of this was known, I hoped. But I actually gave in to that fear and I let it out. I cried a lot. And I openly cried a lot because I actually felt that was a good thing to do.
Where tears go, healing begins.
I wanted to release
you don't want to keep
it.
That in.
I wanted to release it. And I wasn't afraid for other people to see me being that frightened. And I put it in my documentary. And I felt that it was actually quite cathartic. And I didn't see it as a negative emotion. I wasn't fearful that I wouldn't get through this. I wasn't fearful that I was going to die because of this operation. I was frightened because of the unknown and because I was sad. I was sad. I was saying goodbye to a part of me. It was a different chapter. And I let those feelings into my life, into my world, into my mind. And when I woke up from that operation, they were done. I felt huge relief.
Just so grateful to be alive.
I was awake. I'd come round, and the relief of,
I'm here.
I'm here. This is what it's like.
Yeah.
I've got a bandage on. I can't feel anything because I've got painkillers, but I'm here, and we'll see what the next few weeks brings. But the relief was immense.
I remember coming around thinking, I'm alive. I'm alive, and everything is great.
So I think there's a place for us to hold fear. And I think as long as you express it, don't let it take over your life.
No.
I'm not frightened anymore. I overcome. I'm capable.
Because you know what you're capable of. And I think I can do. It makes you stronger, not weaker.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm never going to criticize my body again. If my body does what I'm asking it to do and gets me well, I will never go, my knees have gone all crepey, got a few wrinkles here. I'll always celebrate it. And it's a nice thing to not feel the need to bash yourself up.
Yeah.
But instead to think, my body healed
I've got
me.
these jowly bits. I'm 55. And you know what? I love these jowly bits. This is it's soft skin.
When people say, what was it like getting older? Go, better than the alternative, wouldn't you think? I mean, my best friend died 3 years ago. She would have loved to have got wrinkly knees and wrinkles. She would have loved to have been a grandmother. She never got that joy. So when people say, what's it? You're getting old. I go, yeah. Lucky me.
Yeah.
I'm not getting old. I always think you're saging. You're not aging, you're saging.
Aging well.
And you can say older. Older is very different to old. I'm getting older and wiser.
There was an expression running around on Instagram, you're leveling up. I'm level 55. That sounds
nice?
Good.
I love that, leveling up.
Leveling up. I'm level 55. I'm level 65. I'm level 85. That sounds great, doesn't it?
amazing.
I've got to this point.
Yeah.
There's an incredible lady on Instagram called, her handle is Train with Joan.
I've seen her. Amazing. She's 85, isn't she?
85, started weight training in her 70s. And I remember a very interesting post that she did when sadly her husband passed away. And she was explaining why, and he'd been moved into a care home. And she said, my husband chose a different path to me.
Yeah.
He gave up his independence.
But isn't that the word he chose?
He didn't want to follow the same path as me. And sadly, he has passed.
See, I followed Dr. Ellen Langer. You know her book about how people would go into this home and they pretended it was 25 years earlier and they lived in that world. They wore badges themselves 25 years earlier, the TV, the newspaper from that era. And even their grip changed. And they said, one of them said, I forgot I was 80. I slipped back into that world of being 55. And all of their aging markers changed. And there was another test where people were taken into a room, put on flight simulators. And because they believed they were pilots, their eyesight changed. And it's impossible for your eyesight to change. But their brains were working very hard to make their eyes that of someone flying a plane. And then they had another study where they took people in a room and had them say words like careful, fragile, delicate. And they walked out like they were 90. But then they went back and said vibrant. And they practically skipped out of there. So words have energy. And the word cancer has a very poor energy, which is why I called it can, because can has a nice energy. But survivors are good energy, victims are bad energy. You know, words have energy. Every word you use has a physical reaction and an emotional response. And we have to take back our power.
We do. We have to take responsibility, become empowered, and keep living.
And you are energy, and all the things you're doing are giving you good energy. They call it good juju now. You've inspired so many people, including me, with your story and how authentic you are and how you're really sharing. What do you want people to take away from your story? If you could wave a magic wand and you could give them something, when you wrote that book, what was the outcome you wanted for your readers?
I've had many, many readers who've come up to me at talks and on my book tour who have said, thank you. Thank you because I didn't think that there were these possibilities out there. Thank you because it helped me reframe my situation. Thank you because I've hugged trees for the first time. And I'm going out there experimenting and learning and spending time with these experts that I find fascinating. I'm curious and it's a growth thing for me personally, selfishly.
Yeah, but you're doing it for others at the same time.
I'm doing it to show
I love that.
These incredible people. There's a conference I go to every year. I go to medical conferences now. And this one is an integrative. It's called IPM, and it's all the cutting edge people at the forefront of integrative medicine. And they do these incredible talks. And I want that bit of information, what they're sharing, I want that to be out there. I want people to know. Dr. William Lee is an incredible man. You all have come across him in America. His TED Talk, Can We Eat to Starve Cancer, has had millions of views.
It's amazing.
He's very big into the benefits of eating foods. Kiwis, eat 6 kiwis and you can grow stem cells. Mushrooms, what mushrooms can do for our blood. Anti-cancer foods. And
but he's like you. He's got an act of service. And I read something recently that people who provide an act of service, vicar, school teacher, and people like you, are happier than those who got 3 times their salary. Isn't that nice? So
That's
you're doing it for
lovely.
others, but it's also benefiting you.
And benefiting me. But what I loved, I mean, he talks about so many great things, but in Hack Yourself Healthy, talking about cancer, I know we don't want this to be a cancer fest, but he talks about immunotherapy. His mother was sent home to die. She'd been diagnosed with endometrial cancer.
Stage 4.
When she was 80. They had given her the traditional standard of care, and a year later it came back. And then they said to him, take her on a cruise, end of life. She's done. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I'm a scientist. I'm a doctor. He tested her gut microbiome, which was out of sorts. Dysbiosis is called, gut dysbiosis. He fixed her gut microbiome, which you can do through various things, foods and supplements and lifestyle changes and even fecal transplants. I don't know if he did that on his mum, but it's possible. And then he reapplied the immunotherapy, if that's the right word. So I think it was 3 sessions.
And she's still here at 90, isn't she?
She's 10 years later, she's still here. And the bit that I loved and that I quote a lot, that I want people to know, is he said, if your oncologist isn't asking you about gut health, you must ask your oncologist about gut health.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, maybe you need a new oncologist.
Isn't that interesting? Because, the gut is
Back
everything.
to the
second
food,
brain.
back to how important. So people who have something called akkermansia in their gut respond much more favourably to immunotherapy. They are more likely to survive.
How can you get akkermansia in your gut?
Akkermansia is very hard. Pomegranates have akkermansia.
Okay.
And there is now one supplement on the market that they have designed that does get akkermansia to the lower gut. And Dr. William Lee knows what that supplement is.
If you need this, follow Dr. William Lee.
Follow Dr. William Lee. But isn't that incredible? This one thing that a pomegranate has. So I have pomegranates almost every day. I have pomegranate juice. I have them in the deep freeze.
I was in Puerto Rico in the rainforest, and they have this little blue flower that's very powerful. It only grows in the Puerto Rican rainforest.
Yeah.
And it's powerful at fixing cancer. It's called posy something.
Yeah.
I was looking, I think, wow, and it's a beautiful flower. It only grows, they're very proud of it. Yeah. We need to wrap up. I've taken a lot of your time.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Marisa. What a joy to be able to talk about this with you.
Yeah. And, we both of us, it came and it's gone, and we don't live with a fear. It was just a blip. Just a blip.
It was a blip. We're thriving.
And whether it's headaches or migraines or stomach aches or irritable bowel, do you know doctors will tell you that up to 80% of people more going to the hospital, and the doctors have real illnesses caused by not diseased organs, diseased thinking, which is great news because you can fix the diseased thought. Diseased organ requires surgeries. Disease, that's what it is. We've come so far away. We treat a body, not a mind, but diseased thinking is the big cause of illness now.
Important to treat the whole person.
whole person.
Mind, body, soul, and the disease.
Was always done that way before. So if you have some kind of disease, anything at all, buy this book, and you can do wellness instead of illness. Thank you, darling, so
Thanks,
much. I
Marisa.
appreciate you.
Absolute pleasure. I
Thank
appreciate you.
Thank you.